Stop. Whatever you are doing right now, stop. Because what I'm about to tell you could fundamentally change the way you see your money, your future, and your life. In the next 30 minutes, you will understand something that most people will never understand. And most people will never be free because of it. There is a story I want you to sit with for just a moment. Imagine a man. Let's call him Eduardo. Eduardo was a school teacher in São Paulo, Brazil. Every single month for 11 years, he faithfully bought silver. Not stocks, not crypto, not the newest financial product someone was selling on television. Just silver, small amounts, quietly, consistently. His neighbors thought he was strange. His brother-in-law laughed at him over Sunday dinner every single week. And then one day, the currency changed. The economic structure shifted, the way it has always shifted throughout human history. And Eduardo, the quiet school teacher who saved what others dismissed, Eduardo retired at 54. Not because he was a genius, not because he got lucky, but because he understood something profound, something ancient, something the noise of the modern world tries very hard to make you forget. Wealth is not about timing the market. It is about understanding the nature of value and having the patience and the courage to hold on when everyone else is letting go. Right now, today, silver holders around the world are panicking. They are watching prices fluctuate. They are reading headlines designed to make them afraid. They are feeling the psychological weight of uncertainty. And here is the thing I need you to hear. That panic, that noise, that is the price of entry to every single great financial opportunity that has ever existed in human history. So let's talk about what's really happening. Let's talk about what great investors actually do in moments like this. And let's talk about what this means for your life. Not just your portfolio, but your entire life. The first truth is this: panic is not a warning. Panic is an invitation. In 1979, a young man named John Templeton was watching investors flee the market in terror. The newspapers were devastating. The economy was in turmoil. Interest rates were through the roof. Everyone was selling. Everyone was afraid. John Templeton was buying. He was buying aggressively. And the fortune he built in those years of collective fear became one of the greatest in the history of investing. He said something I want you to write down right now. He said, "Bull markets are born in pessimism, grown in skepticism, mature in optimism, and die in euphoria." Look at where we are right now with silver, with commodities, with real, tangible assets. We are sitting in pessimism. We are sitting in fear. And if history is any teacher, and history is the greatest teacher there is, then what comes after the fear is extraordinary. Now here is the practical move. When you feel panic about your holdings, ask yourself one question. Has the underlying reason I own this asset changed? Not the price, not the headline, not what your coworker said at lunch, the reason. If the reason hasn't changed, if the fundamentals are still intact, then your job is not to sell, your job is to breathe, your job is to hold. Your job is to understand that you are one of the few people willing to do what it takes to be on the other side of this moment. Most people will look back on this period and wish, deeply, painfully wish, they hadn't listened to the noise. The second truth is this: real assets speak a language that paper money never can. Think about this. For 6,000 years of human civilization, silver has been used as money, as a store of value, as a form of exchange recognized on every continent, in every era, across every empire that has ever risen and fallen. The Roman Empire used it. The Chinese dynasties used it. The ancient trade routes of the Silk Road were lined with it. Paper currency, by contrast. The average lifespan of a fiat currency in world history is approximately 27 years. 27 years. The dollar as we know it today is already well past that average. And yet, we are trained, conditioned, to see paper as permanent and silver as risky. Ray Dalio, one of the greatest macro investors alive, has spoken for years about what he calls the big debt cycle. He talks about how every empire, every reserve currency, every dominant financial system eventually reaches a point of structural debt that it cannot sustain. And in every single one of those transitions throughout history, what preserved wealth? Real assets, gold, silver, land, things that exist in the physical world, things that cannot be printed. Now, I'm not here to tell you to put everything you own into silver. That is not wisdom. That is gambling dressed up as conviction. True wisdom is diversification with intention. It is holding real assets as an anchor, as ballast against the storm, while you also build, invest, and grow in other areas. Think of it like building a ship. You need the hull, the solid, dense, heavy bottom that keeps you stable when the waves come. That is your hard assets, your silver, your gold, your land. And then you need the sails. Those are your growth investments, your business, your skills, your relationships. Without the hull, the sails will capsize you. Without the sails, you go nowhere. You need both. The third truth is this: the greatest investors in history were not smarter than everyone else. They were calmer. Warren Buffett started buying Coca-Cola stock in 1988. He bought it when others thought the brand had peaked. He bought it calmly, patiently, and with absolute conviction in his reasoning. Today, that investment has returned him more than 16 times his original investment, and he still holds it. He has said publicly that his superpower is not intelligence, it is temperament. It is the ability to sit with an investment while the entire world around him panics, celebrates, panics again, and he simply holds. Now, let me ask you something personal. Think about the last time you made a major financial decision. Were you calm? Were you operating from a place of deep understanding and long-term thinking? Or were you reacting? Were you responding to a headline, a feeling, a conversation at the dinner table? Because here is what I know. The greatest financial losses in human history are not caused by bad investments. They are caused by good investments abandoned too early out of fear. The silver you hold right now is not a problem to be solved. It is a position to be held, or added to, while others run. Every time silver has corrected significantly in modern history, it has ultimately recovered and exceeded its previous highs. Not always quickly, but always eventually. And the people who were still holding when it did, they were the ones who changed their families' futures. So here is your mindset shift for today. Stop measuring your investments by the week. Stop measuring them by the month. Ask yourself, where will this be in 5 years? In 10? What is the macro trend? What is the direction of the world? And then act, or don't act, from that place of clarity rather than from the screaming noise of the moment. The fourth truth is something most people holding silver have never fully understood, and it changes everything. Silver is not just a monetary metal anymore. It has become one of the most industrially critical materials on the planet. And here is what the panic sellers are not looking at. They are watching the price drop and forgetting to ask why demand is structurally, fundamentally, permanently increasing. Every single solar panel that goes on every single rooftop on this planet requires silver. The photovoltaic cells that capture sunlight and convert it to electricity, they use silver. Right now, the world is in the middle of the greatest energy transition in human history. Governments from Washington to Beijing are pouring trillions of dollars into solar infrastructure. And that infrastructure runs on silver. Electric vehicles, medical devices, 5G infrastructure, advanced semiconductors. The technology that is going to define the next 20 years of human civilization is silver dependent in ways that the average person, and even the average investor, has not yet fully grasped. Think about what that means. You are holding an asset that serves as both a monetary hedge against currency debasement and as a critical industrial input in the fastest growing sectors of the global economy. That is extraordinary. That is rare. In fact, in the history of investing, it is almost unprecedented. And yet, people are panicking. People are selling. Why? Because the price went down in the short term. Because a headline scared them. Because the noise was louder than the signal. Do not be those people. Be the person who does the research. Be the person who understands the why behind the asset. Because when you understand the why, no short-term price movement can shake you. You become unshakable. And unshakable people, people who hold their conviction while others fold, those are the people who build lasting wealth. The fifth truth goes beyond silver. It goes beyond investing. It goes to the core of who you are becoming through the choices you make right now. I want to tell you about a woman named Meera Pillai. She was a nurse in Chennai, India. She started investing in gold and silver in her mid-20s. Not because she was financially sophisticated, but because her grandmother had told her, "Meera, always save something that no one can take from you with a printer." She remembered those words. She acted on them. And 30 years later, when her children were going to university, when her family faced a medical crisis, when the economy around her contracted sharply, the savings that protected her family weren't in a bank. They were in her hands. Literally. Here is what Meera understood that her peers did not. Wealth is not a number in an account. Wealth is a set of habits, values, and beliefs that you practice every single day, until one day those habits and values and beliefs show up in your life as freedom, as options, as the ability to say yes to the things that matter and no to the things that don't. If you're someone who is holding silver, holding gold, holding real assets, you are already someone who thinks differently from the crowd. You are already someone who has made the decision to protect your future rather than just consume your present. That is not a small thing. That is a rare and powerful thing. Now build on it. Go deeper. Read more. Learn more. Add to your knowledge the way you add to your stack. Because the person who understands monetary history, who understands macroeconomics, who understands the long cycles of wealth and poverty, that person does not panic. That person sees the panic of others and recognizes it as an opportunity, not to exploit, but to step forward while others step back. Now let's talk about what you actually do, because knowledge without action is just entertainment. First, review your position with calm eyes. Not emotional eyes, not fearful eyes, calm eyes. Ask yourself, why do I hold this? Is that reason still valid? Write it down. Put it somewhere you will see it when the next wave of fear hits, because the next wave will come. And your written conviction will be your anchor. Second, dollar cost average. If you believe in the long-term case for silver, then a dip in price is not a crisis. It is a discount. The same ounce of silver that cost you more last month costs you less today. Add to your position the way a grocery store adds to its inventory when the wholesale price drops. That is not recklessness. That is discipline. Third, diversify intelligently. Silver is one pillar. Build the others. Invest in yourself, in your skills, your health, your knowledge. Invest in productive assets, businesses, income-generating properties, equity in companies you understand. Invest in your relationships. Because in every crisis in human history, the people who survived and thrived were the people who had strong communities, strong families, and strong networks. Fourth, protect your mental environment. Unfollow the accounts that make you anxious. Stop reading financial headlines that are designed to produce emotional reactions rather than sound thinking. Seek out long-form analysis, deep books, patient thinkers, Jim Rogers, Jim Rickards, Howard Marks, Peter Lynch, the people who have navigated multiple cycles. Listen to how they think, not just what they say. Fifth, play a long game. Set a date, 5 years from now, 10 years. Write down where you want to be, financially, personally, spiritually, and then look at every financial decision through that lens. Not through the lens of today's price chart, through the lens of who you are becoming and what you are building. I want to leave you with something that I hope stays with you for a very long time. History does not remember the people who panicked. History remembers the people who held their nerve. History remembers the people who studied while others slept, who saved while others spent, who believed in something with enough conviction to stand in the fire when everyone around them was running. The silver in your hands right now, whether it is 1 ounce or 1,000, is not just a medal, it is a statement. It is a declaration that you are someone who thinks beyond the moment, someone who respects the past enough to learn from it, someone who trusts the future enough to prepare for it. The noise will pass, the headlines will change, the panic will dissolve as it always has, and when the dust settles, the people who were calm, who were prepared, who were patient, they will be the ones standing in the light. Be one of those people. You already have everything you need to be exactly that person. The question is simply whether you choose to believe it and then act like it. If this message connected with you today, if it gave you clarity, if it gave you courage, if it gave you even one idea that shifts the way you see your financial life, then please take 3 seconds right now and hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone in your life who needs to hear it, because the greatest investment you will ever make is in a mind that thinks clearly, a heart that stays calm, and a spirit that refuses to give up when the world tells you to be afraid. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, stay patient, and remember, this too shall change everything.